Hi, and welcome to episode 1 of Aaron Talks About Korean and Chinese Movies. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about a Korean movie called A Werewolf Boy. So this is actually the very first Korean movie I'd ever watched. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the summary. So this show is about a woman, Suni, who's now an elderly woman. I believe she's living in the States, United States. She emigrated there with her family when she was a teenager. So she receives an unexpected phone call about a family property or a property that had belonged to like her grandmother. And so she returns to the village that she lived in as a child, well, a teenager. So when she returns there, it brings back a lot of memories of her childhood and the boy that she had met 50 years ago. So 50 years ago, a young woman, a young Suni, and her family had moved to a small rural village. There she meets a boy hiding in the bushes and takes him in out of pity. He has wild eyes. His wild eyes and feral behavior bothered her. So she decides to teach him human behaviors such as how to read and write, put on clothes, and wait at the dinner table. She hopes that by teaching him these things, he will eventually be able to live a normal life. This show is a romance and supernatural drama. It had a length of 2 hours and 5 minutes, and it aired in October 2012. Unfortunately, my red stop sign I had made for spoilers got soaked because something got spilled on it. So I have to make a new one. So I'm just going to be, I don't have a character description. So the characters are Soon Jung Ki as Chul So, he's the werewolf boy. And then you have Park Bo Young as Kim Soon Yi as the Suni. So I'm just going to be talking about my thoughts. So if you don't want any spoilers, I would say you should stop watching right now because there's going to be spoilers in the next part. So my thoughts on this show. So I was originally not going to talk about this movie. It was originally under my list for movies that I've watched and kind of forgotten about. But yeah, I didn't remember much about it other than that I found it kind of sad. But when I was reading the summary, it kind of like jogged my memory a bit and I was able to remember a bit more. So I thought I'd talk about it anyways. So it has the label of a romance, but I actually never thought of it as having a romance, to be honest, or being a romance, to be honest. Because I just never felt that that kind of emotion between Soon Yi and Chul So, which was the name that she gave him because when she first found him, he couldn't speak. And so he obviously couldn't tell her what his name was if he had one. So I just kind of felt like the relationship she ended up developing with him was more of like maybe I wouldn't say that of a younger sibling, but just someone that she felt needed to be protected and cared for. So like, yeah, love can come in many different forms. And yeah, so the love I felt she had for him was almost the love of someone that had to be cared for and protected. So she set out to show him what it was like to live as a human. although I don't think he really understood it. I think it's still up for debate how much understanding he had of human behavior. But yeah, because I think he just, honestly, he just wanted to make her happy. Yeah, he exhibited almost wolf-like behaviors, and once he gave his loyalty to her, it was unwavering. So yeah, so he like, I felt his behaviors were very puppy-like or dog-like, wolf-like, whatever. So I think a lot of things he did, he ended up just doing it to please her, not because he really understood it as a human would, I guess. Yeah. So I don't remember a lot, but I remember that he was experimented on like horrifically. They don't really, I don't think they really go into, not that I can remember because it's been a long time since I watched it. Yeah, I don't think it ever really went into what happened to his creator. Sorry, that's my cat. Hey, my bagel there, buddy. Yeah, I don't really remember what happened to his creator. But his creator had gone missing or died or whatever, and he was left alone. I know that he wasn't the first attempt that his creator had done of these experiments, but he was the only successful attempt. All the other boys, children that his creator experimented on, I think had died in the attempts. So he was like the lone success. So yeah, there was some kind of an incident. So there was some kind of an incident. I think it had to do with, there was somebody who in the village who liked her, and I think they became jealous of how much time she was spending with Chulso, and he created problems, or he was causing problems for her. And I think Chulso, out of loyalty, he did something, or he attacked him or something. I can't quite remember. And so the other villagers became aware of his existence, and that created a lot of problems for her and him. And so in order to, so when ignorant, I hate to say ignorant, but you know, when villagers don't understand something, or when people who are superstitious and ignorant don't understand something, how do they respond? They respond with fear. And so in order to protect him, she made him a promise to come. She said she would come back for him, and then she and her family left the village. I think he was like, she'd hidden him in a shed or something, and like told him to stay there, that she would come back for him. And then but I think and then she and her family left. And I think as time went on and life got in the way, she never ended up going back until the current day. And I think she's in her like 60s or something, but don't quote me on that. I could be completely wrong. When questions of her family property come up. So she returns to the village, the rural village, to reminisce about when she'd first moved there and found him. And then, of course, like she returns 50 years later, and she finds him still as young as the day she'd last seen him, waiting for her. He was waiting for her, still living in the shed that she had told him to wait in. So I think while she was away, he continued to learn and teach himself while he was waiting for her to come back. So after this, and realizing that he still lives on the property, she makes the decision not to sell her family property to give him a place to live, since, yeah, he was still living in the shed. Yeah. This show kind of reminded me a bit of, or very reminiscent of Edward Scissorhands. I felt like it was incredibly sad at how alone he was, and basically would be for the rest of his life, because we don't, like, it never explicitly told us. We don't know how long his lifespan is. And like, she refused to sell her family property, but she's like an old woman, and and people die. So it's like, even though you made the decision at this point in your 60s or 70s to like not sell the family property, like what happens to it when you die? Like, somebody else could just come along, or your daughter could come along, or another family member, whoever the family property is going to be passed down to when you die, and they could decide to sell it. So yeah, it was just so sad how alone he was, I felt, like, I don't know, but that's just me. And I didn't realize until I was researching for this episode that the Werewolf Boy is played by Song Joong Ki, who also plays Vincenzo, which is a Korean drama I'll be talking about in my Korean. Aaron talks about Korean dramas. So yeah. So in episode 2, I'm going to be talking about a movie called Silence. So if you want to be updated for any new episodes coming out, hit the notification bell below. And if you like my videos, please subscribe.